Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode. Well, this week's special live bonus episode of the DCL Duo podcast brought to you by...
It's a bonus episode, Brian.
Yeah, but I got to finish my brought to you by, Sam.
Sorry.
You're interfering with our sponsors. Brought to you by My Path Unwinding Travel and also, of course, our good friends over at the DCL Magazine. As always, you heard me say it all the time. If you haven't done it, just dcl-magazine.com in the web browser, anywhere you are right now. Head over there, check them out for all of their great Disney Cruise Line content and their magazine. If you have not subscribed, we have subscribed. We love the magazine, love all the folks over there. Show them some love. Head to dcl-magazine.com and use code DCL Duo, all caps DCL Duo, to take 10% off anything in their store over there. Calendars, magazines, subscriptions, the whole works. So head over there, show them some love. Remember, showing our sponsors some love shows the show a little bit of love, and we love to show that love to our sponsors. So, all right, with that, Sam.
That was a lot of love, Brian. You're very lovey-dovey today, I take it.
You know me. I went to Reed College, so there you go. All right, let's bring in the man, the myth, the legend.
The legend.
CT, a.k.a. Tinfoil Mouse Ears, one of our absolute favorite guests to have on the show, fresh off of his adventures by Disney in Europe. CT, welcome back, man. It's great to see you.
Thank you, guys. It's so good to be here. It's super fresh. Time's
Jet
still
lagged?
messed up. I can smell Brussels still.
What does Brussels smell like? Is it the waffles? Is it...
Or does it smell like Brussels sprouts?
Yeah.
It's a mix of mayonnaise and waffles. There's a mayonnaise fries thing going on there.
The mayonnaise is just...
I might have to title the show this week "A Mix of Mayonnaise and Waffles." There you go. All right. Well,
that is a great line.
Sam, you have CT here. You guys aren't wearing your tinfoil mouse ears, but you put in the chat pre-show. You have some predictions, and if we're gonna do predictions, we gotta do them with CT.
That's exactly right.
I've already heard this prediction, folks, and I'm not skeptical of the actual prediction, but I have some skepticism around it. So, Sam,
I got two predictions. So the first one is like very kind of out there, but it's something we've been talking about for a while, and it started percolating more and more as I was thinking about the New York Times crossword puzzle ads that Disney Cruise Line has put out there in the last few days or last week, whatever it was. I am going to put it out there into the universe. I think we're going to see Disney Cruise Line return to New York City. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I'm going to put it out into the universe. A return to New York City. Now, of course, we're not going to see like a year-round ship in a place like New York City. It's too cold in the winter. Nobody wants to sail in the winter. But they used to do some sailings in the fall. They would go up to New England. They would do some down to Bermuda. So I'm going to predict that we're going to see that. So I'm wearing my Sherlock Hemlock my hat, because whenever we do predictions and whenever we do itinerary releases and I go sleuthing, that's what I'm looking for. And
we're going to give that the official Mouseketeer approval.
I love it. I love it.
Mouseketeer approval.
That's right. All right. My other prediction, and a lot of people have been asking about itinerary releases, right? Because we haven't seen the itineraries for late 2027 yet. We only have through, summer of 2027. So we don't have anything for fall or winter. And I'm going to put out there into the universe that I think at the end of July or very early August, we're going to see those itinerary releases. And the reason for the timing has to be D23. D23 starts on August 14th, 2026. And Disney Cruise Line has to have enough time to do an itinerary release and booking before then, because I think during D23 and after D23, we're going to see more announcements about the Believe, eventually culminating in the itinerary release and booking for the Believe, which I think that'll probably be closer to like maybe early September, mid-September. So we just need enough time before D23 to get all those bookings and itinerary releases out there for the rest of the fleet. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think the pattern they've been following for the last several ships
Year.
is
Yeah.
you got they want to put out the inventory, get it as sold as possible, and then introduce the new ship so that everyone's just not, booking the new ship.
Exactly.
And also they love to do like we're going to do a little special. It just builds the momentum in the conversation if
Excitement.
they do a
Yeah.
special release. So like, yeah, I mean, I think the pattern they followed before is the pattern they will follow this time, pretty much soup to nuts, for the Believe. Yeah, and I agree on the New York. To go back for a second, I agree with you. They're going to go back to New York. I disagree that anything they're doing with the New York Times has any connection with going back to New York. I think that is just, if I think about who subscribes to the New York Times for the most part, I think about families who have incomes that can support buying a Disney vacation. I bet there's big overlap in people who are paying for that subscription and the puzzle subscription and all that sort of stuff. So I have a feeling it's just a way to put eyeballs on Disney Cruise Line from an audience that might have the money to spend on Disney Cruise Line. That's where I land on that. But yeah.
So I agree with the prognostication, but I think the Believe will have a greater gap between the initial itinerary release and its itinerary release than we saw with the previous one. And I'm only saying that because of all the sales we're seeing out of DCL right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I
Good
think
point.
it's not the the market's become super saturated with new ships,
True.
and they're competing with larger ships from RCL and other places. I think we'll see maybe an additional week between itinerary releases that we saw in the last cycle that look similar, but I do think you're right.
Yeah.
I will say,
The other thing that goes along with that is I think we're going to see the Magic and the Wonder retire a little bit earlier than we thought. Like I don't think we're going to get to 2031 with all of them.
I
So I
don't
don't know
see
that we're going to
how
hit.
I don't see how that's possible, Sam, because they've said they're going to have a fleet of 13 ships by 2031, and
I know.
they're on a year really. Like I think those ships will be here in 2031. Now 2031 may be the year they announce the retirement of those ships, but I would expect that to coincide. Well, depending on how sales are going, I suppose. If sales are going well and they're able to sell through these ships and they feel good about it, I could see them like announcing a couple more ships in the fleet to replace them. But yeah, I mean, so anyway, for all of you listening and watching out there, I do have an automation set up on my machine that is scanning the Disney Cruise Line website every 30 minutes, looking for changes that would indicate an itinerary release. To Tracy's comment that Tracy said in the chat, someone I know in the travel industry has suggested there may be exciting news coming this week. I think it's too late for this week. They typically release this
Yeah.
stuff on like Tuesday, and then it opens on like a Thursday, and then Pearls have the weekend to sort of decide. Although last time around they compressed it, I think a little bit. So I would expect if something's going to get released, it's going to happen on Tuesday, Wednesday at the latest, and now we're into Thursday, and I don't think they'll release on Thursday or Friday this week. I think it'll be next week if it's going to happen soon. But yeah. All right.
So we didn't talk news. One real quick news thing that just happened is the Behind the Attraction came out. So the new season of Behind the Attraction, there's 2 episodes about Disney Cruise Line. The first of the 2 episodes is sort of how Disney Cruise Line came to be, and then the second episode really like how they developed like the first ships, and then the second episode is about the Disney Believe. So instead of Believe, the Disney Destiny. So instead of doing a sort of full length movie like they did with The Wish, they have done a single episode, essentially Imagineering type story of the Destiny. So they're both out on Disney Plus. So catch them now, either on the app or on your TV. And yeah, well, I haven't gotten a chance to watch myself, but thus far, hearing great things about both episodes.
Nice. All right. We got to get into this amazing adventures by Disney. So I'm going to head over to presentation layout. CT has. This is a great presentation. I've looked through it. It's great. I love the
I have
animation
not.
already. And you have somehow cracked the code on sizing it appropriately, CT, so it fills the window, which I am now super jealous of. So people should be able to see this at home. If you are listening to this later, head to YouTube to watch this. A lot of great photos and stuff to help you track the conversation that we're having here live with CT. And if you haven't joined us live before, head over, join us live. You can ask questions in real time. And if you are out there watching us live right now and you have questions about this Adventures by Disney, post them in the chat and we will try to address them throughout the show. But CT, get us started here. And perhaps the first question I have is, what made you make the leap from Disney Cruise Line to Adventures by Disney?
Disney found a hole in my pocket and figured out how to get in there deeper. No, I gotta stop telling jokes and tell really why. I was on the Good Murder Ship. Have you guys seen that BBC, The Good Murder Ship?
No.
Murders every week on a cruise line ship with like BBC Whodunit. You have to watch it.
Oh, we
Okay.
would love it. We love British murder shows in general. So
So last year we traveled with my wife's parents to Banff, traveled with my family down to Walt Disney World, and I was trying to, knowing those were coming, how do I find time that's really good for just me and Kelsey? Started looking at, about that time was you guys had returned from your adventure and we're talking about it from did you guys didn't do Christmas markets, did you?
we did, but we did
It
it in
was Rome, right?
2023. It was no, we did Christmas markets on the Danube, but it was in 2023. So but we've
Yep.
had a couple of folks on, since then
Yep.
also to talk about some of the other
Yep.
adventures.
You'd had Rebecca, who was an
Mhm.
adventure guide on your show, and right around that time I keep track of like a bucket list for Kelsey and I. Um uh, uh, the Cologne Cathedral was near the top of mine, the Rhine River Gorge. So I started planning Valentine's Day of last year, this trip, because that's when I booked it. And I took Kelsey on a chocolate, cheese, and coffee tour of Central Europe. It was fantastic. So we had a little bit of time before and after that we were seeing some other things. And the Rhine River adventure just got us from Switzerland to the Netherlands in order for us to check all those boxes. So didn't think I would ever end up here, but I'm so glad we did.
Yeah. And you had not really considered Adventures by Disney before hearing us talk about it. How come?
The sticker shock.
Mm.
I looked even at like some of the adventures out west here in Conus, and just the price seemed like too much. And to be honest, after the last couple of trips we've taken, Banff, pretty expensive. The European cruise we did back in 23, it just we just got to a place where we're actually traveling on a budget that was close to what this trip cost. So um, it also helped we were able to pay off the house sometime last year, and that changes how much we can spend to travel. So
Nice.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, you chose this one because of the specific like there were certain things in this itinerary that you mentioned sort of were on your bucket list you wanted to check
yeah,
off, right? Yeah,
yeah.
love it.
All right.
All
All
right,
right.
before
So
we get
before we get
started,
into
Yeah,
this,
we
CT has
love
a
this.
I
PSA here.
always bring a charity. Sam, that should have been your third prognostication for the episode.
I knew it
But
was I knew that would come.
uh, we talked about Boots to Beaches last time. I talked to them today. So they're less than a year old and have already helped 72 veterans with some type of trip. But the goal being most of them cruises. Sometimes they come across an event where they're trying to hook hook people up with like the Lieutenant Dan band and stuff like that. Some other goals sometimes that they go after, but 72 veterans have been helped. And it's not just the trip, it's also some counseling that helps them reconnect with their family and restore like just who they were before they went on that trip. So, fantastic organization, uh, bootstobeaches.org. I would encourage you go check them out, even if you can just give like $5 one time. That's a fantastic way. They also just posted a QR code today for you can order something from Walmart.com, round it up to the nearest dollar, and that contributes to helping veterans. So, we're going to have a lot of veterans returning from, the Middle East without getting into politics here real soon. So I know they're going to be looking to help a lot of folks be a part of that. It's fantastic. So,
We love it.
Nice.
And you know what? 4th of July is coming up, so you can do it in honor of our nation's 250th anniversary.
yeah, perfect.
All
Nice.
right.
Perfect.
Nice.
All right, let's talk about the great trip. Okay, so before the adventure, we actually spent a week in Switzerland. It was fantastic. I planned most of it before the land-based adventure that Disney set up. I haven't had a look at that because I'd already done the planning for it. But based on our time in Switzerland, I would tell people take a good look at that if that's something they're thinking about doing. We stayed in Lucerne and hopped out to Stoos Ridge, which is that beautiful mountain vista you see there. It's about a 2-hour hike out east of Lucerne. We went to Zurich and saw the Lindt Chocolate Museum. We also saw, to my surprise, at the University of Zurich, Einstein was a professor, and that was his locker while he taught there, which was fantastic to see.
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, we ate lots of cheese, lots of chocolate, lots of coffee, schnitzel, cordon bleu. We just did this thing where we'd walk around the town during our tours or our time alone, and if we saw a new branded chocolate shop, we would pop in, get the darkest chocolate they've got, get the chocolate they have mixed with espresso, and then ask the person at the counter what their favorite was, grab those 6 pieces and continue on our way and kind of, snack on them and talk about what we thought was the best, whether it was Max or Lauterdoc or Lindt or Nestle, whatever, all the big brands there, Toblerone. We just kind of did that as we went through. So it was great. It was great. There were
Oh,
nights
I
where there was
love
just
that.
like a picnic with like a roll of bread and 2 or 3 cheeses we picked out. It was great.
I love that. I would absolutely go for the coffee chocolate combination, whatever it is. I will not do the whole ask the person their favorite because inevitably it's gonna have some kind of weird fruit in it, and I don't do fruit and chocolate together.
We
So
didn't get that a lot. We didn't get that a lot,
really? Oh,
surprisingly.
good. Yeah,
Orange, we
yeah.
got orange ones,
Ugh,
but that was really good,
ugh.
so I'm not complaining.
I know lots of people like that, but it's not my jam. It's not I
Got
don't
it.
do orange and chocolate together. I just don't do any fruit with chocolate. But sounds like a really fun sounds like a really fun trip to Switzerland before. All right,
Yeah.
let's check out the next slide.
All right, so from Lucerne, which was our base. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, who are the stars of this adventure? So,
Yeah.
not only, so was not me. Notice there were 3 C's for my wife I mentioned earlier: coffee, chocolate, and cheese. And CT wasn't mentioned. That's because I'm 4 and my ego can't handle it. But I was with my beautiful wife. She's in every picture. Um, Kelsey was fantastic for the trip. So much fun. And if you were watching us on socials, it was always hashtag the cutest girl in the Alps, on the Rhine, in Europe, in Holland. I'm the most blessed guy in the world. She's fantastic. But
Oh.
along with us, co-starring was our amazing adventure guides. Uh, you're seeing it. We'll start in the lower left and go around, but we've got Amelie, Sarah, Roman, Chris, Zuza, and Gergor, or some people just called him George.
Yeah.
Fantastic
We
group,
had we had
fantastic
Garrett we
team.
had Garriga also, or
Okay.
AKA George, on our Danube River cruise 3 years ago, or 2.5
Yeah,
years
he's
ago, I guess it was.
fantastic.
He
He's
is.
definitely a good logistics guy. Like you pick up, they start fitting into roles real quick. And
Mhm.
he's a real sharp adventure guide and a lot of fun. Um, I learned a lot from him. We also had a bonus seventh adventure guide because Daniel, the cruise director for Ama Waterways on the Ama Siena, is previously an adventure guide with Adventures by Disney.
Wow.
And if you know
Really?
Daniel,
Wow.
he sounds like Jeremy Irons. Unfortunately, because of the German accent, it's more Die Hard 3 Jeremy Irons than Lion King, but you got what I'm saying. But he was fantastic. The
Did you ask him
Cousins
to
of Hans
sing?
Gruber was a fantastic cruise director for our Ama Siena Waterways trip.
That's awesome. That's what a cool coincidence because, of
Yeah.
course, whoever is the AMA cruise director, that is picked by AMA, right? And that person's on for all of the sailings for on that ship for their contract. And so they have nothing to do with which weeks are booked by, of course, Adventures by
Yeah.
Disney, because Adventures by Disney charters the entire boat. Now, you were on the AMA Siena.
Yep.
Um, tell us, what you thought about, I don't know if you have a slide here because I haven't looked at the slide deck, but what did you think about the ship when you first saw it?
It looks you can tell the reason why Disney picked Ama, because Ama cares for their river ships the way that Disney cares for their cruise ships. You would see a Viking ship or another ship. The only other ones that looked as good was Avalon. Everyone else looked like you could see the age on the ship, but you couldn't see it on the Sienna. So that would be for sure. The other first impression was, what's with the weird window in the bathroom? I went in there, hit the switch, and did like the brace face, the Finding Nemo, tink, 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 and freaked out Kelsey a little bit the first time up against the glass.
There is a
So
window from the bathroom into the room. It's higher though, so you can't, like, if you're sitting on the toilet, the person in the room can't see you. But yeah, you can kind of look in. It is a little strange. Tracy is well, let's go to the next slide, and then I wanna tell you, Tracy's asking, compare and contrast the ship to Disney Cruise Line and, room size, community areas, et cetera. We'll do this like a brief version, obviously, we can't get
so
into everything.
yeah, so room size is a difficult question because of the category.
Mhm.
I think we were Bravo Alpha was our cruise category, which is one of their better rooms. It's not a asking for a friend. That's funny.
Mm.
It's one of their better sized rooms on deck two. Um, but not in concierge. So it's not a suite. It's not, the largest room they have. I would say it's about the size of a non-deluxe stateroom with Disney, if that makes sense. There's enough for two people to get around and not have a problem. I guess it's a little shorter from the standpoint there's no couch in the room. So it would be like a
Mhm.
small inside stateroom would be your comparison, but you're not staying in your room except to sleep, right? And
Yep.
even then you're probably not spending a lot of time on your balcony. I thought that would be like a big deal for us, but we spent all of our time in like the lounge or up on deck, or off the ship. Like river cruises are about the places you see and being comfortable as you transition from spot to spot. So I
Exactly.
would say, um, uh, and then as far as lounges, you have one lounge, you have one restaurant, you have one, we'll say premium dining, even though you don't pay extra for it. So different from Disney. You know, if you go on a Wish class ship right now, there's like 27 lounges and 3 tea spots. That's not what's happening on a river cruise. But there's also like only 150 to 175 guests sailing. So you feel like you have a lot of space in those public spaces compared to, you know, 200 people trying to jam into trivia in a medium-sized lounge on a Disney cruise ship. So I will tell you that Kelsey felt more comfortable as both an introvert and someone who grew up in a small town on the river cruise ship compared to the large cruise ship. And I've
Yeah.
got a slide that talks about more of the differences later. So we'll come back to that for sure.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's talk about embarkation, Basel, Switzerland. That's where you start off.
Yeah, so we headed up from Lucerne to Basel, took a private tour for 2 hours with a local guide the day before we got on. Great city with a lot of history. You know, a lot of these Central European areas were city states that came together to become the countries we know that they are now, if they haven't changed in the meantime. But Switzerland's a great example of that. In the picture here, you can see like the main market, one of the gate entrances leading up to the old city wall. And then the last spot with that spire is a place where Germany, France, and Switzerland all come together there on the north end of Switzerland's Basel, because the metro area kind of expands into those other two countries, including the airport, which I think is technically in France, but does have a Swiss exit, so you're clear customs with Swiss right from the airport. So, um, great town, had a lot of fun. It's a great place to embark from, see on your own. But it's a Swiss city. It's not Zurich, Lucerne, Geneva. It's not one of these in the north, you're away from the mountains. It's just less of a, what I would say is a big Swiss attraction, but was a great place to start.
Yeah. Now, did you stay in the hotel that was like the ABD hotel, right? Like booked through Adventures by Disney or where the meeting place is, or did you stay at a different hotel?
No, we did our own travel arrangement up into the ship, and to be quite honest, it wasn't hard from the Hotel Marthoff that we were right in that city center there with the red town hall building. We were able to walk to the closest bus or tram stop, get on the tram with all of our luggage because it was before 10 o'clock when everything's loaded or open, take it, what, 7 or 8 stops to where AMA Waterways was, and walk our luggage like 5 or 6 blocks to get to the ship. It really wasn't
Oh,
that
wow.
bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
We went out and checked it out the day before, kind of, decide if we are going to try to get a taxi. Sometimes when you stay in the city center, some of these European places, you can't get a taxi right up to the hotel. You've got to walk it a while anyway.
Mhm.
So we just decided she was like, look, it wasn't too far from where that spire is, where the three countries come together. So when we went out to see that spot, we checked out what the river cruise port looked like, and we just decided we were comfortable moving it on our own.
Awesome. All right, Brian, let's go to the next slide.
All right, so real quick, we got on the ship as Brian's switching, and we actually got to the ship super early because we're gonna dump bags and then move on. And they actually like, hey, if you want to come on the ship, have breakfast, hang out in the lounge for the morning, you're welcome to, which is different, right? Like they're not afraid to feed you an extra meal. They're not afraid to figure out how to like take care of their customers at the soonest. So there were still people waiting for cabs to depart for the airport while we were getting on the ship and having Mickey shaped sweets. So kudos to Emma Waterways for just like wanting to take care of the customer the moment the customer's in front of them. I thought that was fantastic. um and they were not coming, we were the first Disney adventure that they were, well, one of the first. There wasn't a Disney adventure for the itinerary on the Amasiana prior to ours, so it wasn't like there were Disney adventure guides that were pushing that. That was just Alma taking care of customers, which I kind of love. Our first stop
Yeah, and they do the
was
same thing when you leave too, just to, like when you leave, they don't,
yeah,
like, shove you off at, like, 9 a.m. It's like a rolling people are leaving as their transportation is there to take them for their flights or to wherever they're doing the after the cruise, so it's kind of
yeah.
a more leisurely kind of entrance and departure. Sorry, so tell us about your
They
first
do
first stop.
want you out of your room by 9 or 9:30, so have that
Right.
as an expectation. So our first
Yes, good
stop
point.
was uh to the Königsberg Castle in Rickware. The castle was fantastic. Some great pictures we were able to take, great storytelling from the local tour guide that was paired with our adventure guide, Sarah, for the day. Sarah was taking pictures of us at certain spots along the way and of the castle. Along with the other adventure guides that were running other tour groups that were moving around. Disney did a really good job of making sure there weren't like 60 of us with one tour guide when they had a lot of people going to a particular adventure or whatever excursion for the day, to use DCL
Mhm.
language. So we had like 3 different groups of 20 each that did what we did at Konisberg and Rickware. We moved on to Rickware, and Rickware was a very like storybook, definitely one of many small towns that inspired some of the Disney animated films we've seen over the year, with the mortar and the wood designed for the homes, the fountain in the square. It felt like we were in the town Belle grew up in when we were there. And a big thing for them there is the storks and the
Oh,
way the
cool.
storks nest, and they do a lot to take care of that, even locally amongst the population, as far as building up certain tops to make it easier to hold the weight that comes with the stork family, I guess. So that's the little picture there on the side.
Very
That you
cool.
could see
Yeah,
the
with the
nest on the
nest.
rooftop. We love that. Um,
Yeah.
we went, we walked up the street with Roman, another adventure guide. He was French, so he knew, it kind of made it feel even more Beauty and the Beast because we've got a French guide that's telling us about. So as we were heading up the street and he's talking about the town more, I just kind of grabbed a bag of what has the coconut? Is it macaroons or macarons?
Macaroons.
Macaroons.
Macaroons, yeah.
So I
Macaroons, yeah.
grabbed a quick bag of macaroons in one of the bakeries, and we were snacking on those at 1:30 in the afternoon as we're walking up the street of Rickware, looking at the beautiful homes, looking at the stork's nest, going to the gate leading into the old town. It was fantastic. We absolutely loved it. It was a great afternoon. And then after that part of the like guided, he it was kind of an ad hoc tour that he gave us, and we dipped into a French bakery and had a ham and cheese croissant and an eclair that we split, and it was fantastic. Right? Lots of food, lots of great food in Europe. I'm going to talk about food a lot. So,
Yeah, I mean,
anyway,
it's
it's
one of the
great.
highlights. One of the things I wanted to mention is you mentioned about excursions. For those who haven't heard us talk about Adventures by Disney before, your excursions are included in the cost of your Adventures by Disney booking. And so
Uh,
when you're talking about most of the river cruise adventures, you have choices. And so I think it's like 6 weeks before, 8 weeks before, something like that, before you sail, you will get those choices sent to you via email and you will pick which ones you want. You can do some changing once you get on board if you want to. But there might be some limits because they've sort of planned for how many people are going to do each thing. And so they've
yep.
booked tour guides based on that. So you might be able to change things around, but it's subject to availability. But you'll have at least 2 choices typically for the day of what to do. And sometimes it will be like a full day excursion, and sometimes you'll have a morning choice and an afternoon choice. And so, and sometimes it'll be the same thing. It's just some people will do it in the morning, some people do it in the afternoon, things like that. So if you are going to do an Adventures by Disney, that's what you can expect in terms of excursions and sort of how it's planned. And that's specific to the river cruises. On land based ABDs, a lot of them, it's like it's a much smaller group, and it is a set sort of itinerary with less choosing. You might have a couple of choices, but it's not like on river cruises where you typically every day have at least two choices of what to do.
It's also only like 2 or 3 guides and like 40 people, not 6 guides for 170, right? Like it's
Mhm.
a different adventure guide customer ratio. Um I know the adventure guys talked about how they appreciated the intimacy of the land tours when they did them, but they also loved kind of the diverse uh customer and like there's a lot of fun that comes with so many great personalities. So
Right, they
yeah.
get to do more mixing and mingling on the river cruises because they might be paired up with you, CT, on Monday, but Tuesday they'll be paired up with other people. So they get to know a larger group of people as opposed to a land-based tour might have only like 30 people on it. You only have
Yep.
2 adventure guides versus one of these where you're talking, what do we say, 6 adventure guides for 60 people, let's say. All
Yep.
right, let's head to the next slide, Brian.
So the next stop was Strasbourg. There we got off the boat in the morning and took a river cruise tour through Strasbourg. Saw some swans that was fantastic in the canals we were going through. And then the cathedral in town is just a great, I mean, it's a big, old, beautiful cathedral to see. I guess right, Kelsey and I are, as much as we probably didn't appreciate humanities when we're young, we're at the old age where we are appreciating it now. And then on our own, we had about an hour and a half, and we jetted out to another spot because I'd done a little research, and Gutenberg has a statue there in Strasbourg, and I've got to look into more of his history. But if you don't know, he's the one that designed the press.
Yeah, the printing press.
That was, yeah, a big part of the Bible spreading across the world the way it did. Is so much other literature.
Mhm.
So it was cool to go see the statue they have in honor of him. So Strasbourg is also an interesting city. It's one of those that's been French for a while. It's been Roman. It's been German. It's been, as a lot of these spots along the river have, whether it was Napoleon or Caesar, whatever. There's this interesting mixing pot of history, culture that you don't see in a lot of other places.
Yeah, we got a great comment from Jeff about Gutenberg, that there is a great Gutenberg museum in Mainz, Mainz, which is on the Rhine, that there's a great museum there. Another question in the chat from Ashley, she was curious if you had made the whole trip, on the riverboat or if you had to be bussed, because sometimes in Europe, and occasionally in the summertime, the water levels can be low. In the wintertime, conversely, sometimes the water levels can be too high. So there are times where you might have to change from one riverboat to another riverboat because you can't traverse a certain area. And then when that happens, Adventures by Disney will typically not cancel unless they absolutely have to. They will typically bus you from one place to another. And you may, like I said, switch riverboats. You guys didn't have to do any of that, right? You guys were on
No, no,
which
the Swiss Alps fed the Rhine beautifully, and we
wonderful.
really, if you think about it, we were kind of on the tail end of the shoulder season leading
Hmm.
into the summer season, which is gonna benefit you because that's also kind of the part of the melting season. The waterfalls in Switzerland were flowing with so much volume and water that all contributes to the way the Rhine feeds up there to Netherlands. So that was not an issue. They kind of talked through that logistic because some people had asked questions about it, but we were too early in the season for that to be a concern.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's talk about the next day. Ooh,
Okay, so the
Heidelberg.
next day was Heidelberg. So, man, Heidelberg was such a great day. The castle's great. I probably would have appreciated it more had I not gotten a text the night before from a dear old friend of mine, Wayne and Margie. They're dear friends of Kelsey and our. Um, Most of who I am in the Air Force today is because of Chief Tackett. So it was great to reconnect with an old mentor during the time on our own in Heidelberg. So we had about 4.5 hours where we walked around with them, saw more of the city, had schnitzel with them, went to a couple of different cafes. And Kelsey got a chance to catch up with Margie. And Wayne as well as I got to. So they're just they're good family, and the four of us all haven't been together since like July 4th in DC in 2018. So it was great for us
Wow.
to get to reconnect with a
Did they
great
just
family
did they just
folks.
happen to be there?
No, Wayne and Margie actually work for the Air Force's civilians over in
Over
Germany.
there. Ah.
And they were about an hour away and were able to link up with us. It was perfect. It was a Sunday, so like a lot of the shops were closed.
Mhm.
But the cafes were open and we walked out to a bridge and a gate to the kind of the old town because that's what European towns have. And then just got had a great time just catching up with them. It was fantastic.
So,
Awesome.
CT, I'm curious because when I saw the photo of you with the others, I thought, oh, they made friends on the cruise. Now, hearing your story, I understand shouldn't have taken that from the photo, but I am curious, how was it with the community of folks who were on the river sailing
I,
itself? Did you eat
I
with
think it
other
was pretty
people?
great. So one of the things I really liked about river cruising, and I'm more of an extrovert than Kelsey is, but I like that we were like there wasn't assigned seating at dinner. So there was like another family or another couple that was in the table like next to ours. If you kind of go all the way to the back of the restaurants, you've been on some of the Amish ships where they have the shared booth that goes along and then the chairs on the other side. There'll be like a table for two and a table for four. We just connected with a different family. One family was from Minnesota, not 5 miles from where my mom lives. Another family, there was just this, they had this, I think it was 14 or 15, uh, son with them, and he was so nice and proper. We were like telling him to like don't change, be that way forever,
Oh.
you know. And then another, when we ate the chef's table, we had caught up with that family a couple more times, and it was a grandparents that were taking their daughter to Europe on the river cruise and then to Paris. So we got to catch up and talk to a lot of different folks. And we liked that a lot. It was cool. It was different than Disney because you kind of, when you have that table, those are the folks you see. Maybe there's someone you see continuously in the lounge, but I felt like we got to know like easily a third of the folks that were on the river cruise with us, and there was a good sense of community as a result of that.
Yeah, and you start to recognize people real quickly, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
because the ship is not big, there's only really the 2 main spaces you mentioned. There's the dining room and the lounge, and so you're gonna see the same people over and over again. Now, you may end up conversing with probably, like you mentioned, maybe a third to 50% of the people, just sort of maybe some chit chat, but like you will recognize pretty much everyone from your group or from your ship by the end of, the 7 days if you're on a 7-day sailing, because you do get mixed up in those groups every day in terms of excursions. So it's kind of a nice way to travel for sure.
Yeah,
All right.
and some of the things they do can help you like kind of link up with people. So one was like Kelsey's birthday was the day we were in Rickware, that first day we were on the ship.
Mhm.
So a lot of people were walking by at dinner or in the lounge that evening wishing her a happy birthday. Or on the Heidelberg day, we're meeting at that like 6:30 get together before you go to dinner and uh the team of adventure guides had bought several pickle ornaments that go on the Christmas tree, and they were hiding 3 of them a day on the cruise ship for people to find.
Oh,
And
fun.
as Roman's explaining this, I'm like, okay, so we're looking for pickles, and I see a little gold loop hanging from the bar behind them. And I didn't think about it at the time, and I hope it didn't come across as rude, but as Roman's explaining that no, they really hid pickles, I get up, walk between the adventure guides, grab the pickle ornament, and go sit back down. So I have a pickle ornament now.
I love
It
that.
was fun. It was a great thing that they did, and it
Yeah.
caused people to link together, talk about where they had searched. Like they do such a good job of that sort of thing.
Yeah. Were there many kids on your sailing?
I would say 30 to 40.
Yeah, that's actually a lot. That's a lot,
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah,
30 to
and
40 would be my guess. And I'm talking all the way up to like I'm counting 18 as a kid. Like anybody
right.
that is still living with their parents is that 30 to 40.
Yeah. And generally speaking, would you say it skewed towards sort of teenagers? It's not usually young
Mm,
kids that you see so much. I
I
mean, you
would
might
say
see
early
some.
teens. Tween,
Yeah.
early teen was there were a few like high school graduates. You could tell there were a few like maybe 19-year-olds that were back from college.
Mhm.
Um But yeah, there were and the junior adventurers, the adventure guides had stuff, and they had stuff for the teens to do up on deck in the evening sometimes. So actually, I think they were linking up with the teens every single day, to try to make them feel involved. And maybe that was driven by the number of teen tweens that were on the cruise. So, but it was
That's awesome.
fantastic. They did a great job.
Yeah, I love hearing about that. I also love the idea of celebrating a birthday. We're gonna be celebrating our anniversary on our Adventures by Disney. I'm not sure if people realize this from our because we have our podcast cruise. We leave next week. Our podcast cruise starts on July 4th, but our anniversary is just a few days later. On the oh my god, is it the 6th, Brian? Yeah, July 6th is our anniversary.
Mhm.
And how many years now?
Oh, I'm so glad she's having me think about this question.
18. 18.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I would ask Brian what his secret is, but I feel like I have to ask you, Sam, after that.
The secret is just finding someone who can put up with your own personal brand of crazy, and Brian and I each can put up with each other's personal brand of crazy. Not always, it's not always perfect, but I think like you have said though, CT, it's you work every day on it, right? Like you've committed to a marriage, you love the person, they may annoy you, they may piss you off sometimes, but you deal with those things because you're committed to the marriage, you're committed to the family, you're committed to being together. Yeah.
And if they send you psych gifts, whenever times are tough, you found like that's extra bonus, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Kelsey does a good
Absolutely.
job of that.
Absolutely. I love it. All right. Let's
All
see
right.
the next slide, Brian.
All right. Next stop.
I gotta find just keep talking. I gotta find my cursor here.
The
There it
next
goes.
stop was a lot of fun. I like this stop a lot. It was the one I was looking for to least because it was on your own time, and on your own time were the morning and afternoon choices, and there was nothing else. There was
Oh,
an
interesting.
option in the morning to go to a music cabinet museum that Kelsey absolutely loved.
Hmm.
Um, I think I've said it on the probably on the Love Boat episode, which is a fantastic episode, if I may say. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. Um, uh, I took Kelsey to see the ocean for the first time in 2011, and she took off her shoes, walked into the soft sand, and I just saw this like childlike enthusiasm on her face that was like buried between, the dimples of a smile, right? And I worked to reproduce that as often as I can. The Music
Oh,
Cabinet Museum did that for me that morning. It was fantastic to see. If you are on this adventure, it's early in the morning. Do not sleep on it. It is fantastic. They have several cabinets that they've collected over the years that are like, you see the old pianos in a Western that wind up and they've got the paper roll and it's playing on its own. They have a collection of maybe 50 to 60 cabinets that they showcased. Some even had doors that opened and three violins behind each of the doors. And the bow was a round circle that went around and played violins to go along with it. It was, Sam, I'm
wow.
texting you the video after this. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And Kelsey just ate it up because she was recording stuff. I was recording audio with those new Insta mics
Mm-hmm.
so she could then turn it into a lesson plan for her students and show them what some people have done with music. And I bought her like a small music box from there. Um, they
That's
actually
so cool.
make
So it's like a
the
mechanical.
birds that sing
Oh my
different notes that inspired like the tiki room.
God.
Um, that may be, I kept their information. That may be a Christmas present that I don't ever tell her how much it costs in the future because I think she would love that for because she's a musician and just loves that sort of thing. But that Music Cabinet Museum, do not sleep on it. After that, the town is kind of sleepy. They'll give you tickets to the gondola, and you go to the top, and that's what you're seeing there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in town till about 1:30 that day. Um, and we went to the top, walked around town, had what's called a Rudesheim coffee, which is a coffee where they burn off the brandy before they add the coffee and chocolate on top. It was
Oh, fun.
fantastic.
Yeah.
We shared what do they call that? A chimney cake. I think it's more Hungarian than it is German, but we shared the chimney cake. Gergor sent us over to have one of those, said it was good and it was fantastic. Or fantastisch, if I'm saying German right. And then we this was the day that we then at the end of the day went through the Rhine River Gorge.
Awesome.
So great town. This was a great day. I thought it was going to be the day we stayed on the ship, and it was one of the best days we had off the ship just on our own.
Love it. All right, Brian, next slide.
So the Rhine River Gorge. Um It is a gorge of like 33 or 40 castles,
That's so
and you
cool.
just sit up on deck and uh, you know, Jeremy Irons is telling us about each of these castles as we go by, and what their names are, what kind of their history is, what's spilling the tea about the drama of how this castle, the family came apart in the castle or
Right, the royalty, all the royal
whatever the story
rumors.
is.
Yeah, yeah.
But the captain did an excellent job of navigating the gorge because it is tricky. So kudos to Captain Ron. And then Daniel did a great job of narrating, and we sat up on deck for like I don't know 4 hours that day and just enjoyed the weather. It was a beautiful day. It was like 70 degrees, and we're taking pictures and video of all these castles as we're going back by. I have a time lapse of the ship going down that gorge with my X5. It was great. It was great.
That's awesome. This is, I think, what a lot of people think of when they hear
Oh yeah.
river cruise, and I wanna just, like, tell people yes and no. And the reason I say yes and no is because a lot of the time when you're on a river cruise, you're only moving at night, meaning when you've gone to bed, and then the ship will move while you're sleeping to its next berth, right? And so that's most of what a river cruising is. Um, depending upon your itinerary, you might have like one afternoon or one morning where you are traversing the river. And so for you all, that was this. I'm not sure that our river cruise, our Holland and Belgium river cruise, I'm not sure that we actually have even a half day where we're sailing during the day. And we did have a half day when we sailed the Danube, like you had, where we were traversing the river. So that's like, if you have that, that's really your one opportunity to sort of see the sights and sit on the deck and enjoy the breeze of going down the river. It's not, we're talking like smooth as glass typically because we're on a river, we're not on the ocean. So you don't need to worry about seasickness, but it is very different, I think, than what people kind of envision when they think of river cruise. They think they're going to be out on the ship, on the deck, traversing the river during the day, and that's typically not the case. So just an FYI for those interested.
No sea days on a river cruise.
Right. No sea days. Exactly.
Yes.
You might have an afternoon. Or a few hours, right? I'm curious. Well, I don't know if you have a slide on this, but I'm curious about food. I wanted to ask you.
We're going to talk food. We're going to talk
okay.
food. We got
Okay,
food.
never mind.
Is it the
We'll get there then.
pretzel? Because that's inflated, Sam.
Well,
You don't want
I
to eat
know.
that one. I tried. There's a different version of that picture.
I love a
Brian, I'm
soft
just
pretzel.
admiring.
So
I'm admiring the dynamic background that I use the flag colors right now. Sorry.
It's
All
great
right,
stuff.
slide.
It's great stuff.
All right. So Cologne was the next day, or Cologne, as they say, and the cathedral was something we were looking forward to. Definite highlight, but along with seeing the cathedral, we got to see the bridge that everyone leaves the locks on. That's there in Cologne. That's what you see in the picture there. And then we also went to 4711, and it's one of the two companies that actually started making like cologne and perfume back in the day. The 4711 is like the house number because back before they had street names, they just numbered every house in an old European city. So, their location that they're at there has a fountain where they have this special mix, and it started as like the OG essential oil where people would take a little bit of this special mix and put it behind their ear to cure a headache or something like that. And now they're a perfume company, and I bought, a nice bottle for Kelsey while we were there, and but they tell you a bunch of the history of like the cologne and perfume industry there in Germany and in Cologne. And then they take you upstairs and they actually hit you with a bunch of smells and then kind of give you like a palm reading for what types of perfumes you should try based on what smells you prefer. Is probably That's the best way I can explain it. I did
I love
not
that.
partake, but
Yes.
Kelsey did it, and this ended up being a big hit for her when it kind of looked like a side dish. We did that, and then we went back out and actually went into the cathedral ourselves there in Cologne. Which has beautiful stained glass windows. Interesting story. They actually pulled them all down.
All right, here we go. Sorry,
Hey.
guys.
Hey everyone, we lost the live stream there for a second. My computer freaked out and went dark, and so we are back. CT, I'm not sure where you cut off, so you might want to just back up a little bit here.
The last thing I heard was that this perfume stop was the sleeper hit, and that it was essentially like when it started, it was the essential oils. I didn't hear where you went after, or you said you were going
Okay.
back to the church, but I didn't hear after that.
Yep. So we headed back to the church, went into the church, and we looked at it's got some beautiful stained glass windows that they like hid underground during the World War II in order to preserve them and took them out. And there's a lot of stories like that about churches there. But we had that local guide was great. We had, our adventure guides were popping around, but we stayed in Cologne as long as we could because we actually had a bus about like 15 minutes away. I think to Worms is where we were that day. No, maybe that was the Heidelberg day. Anyway, we had to take a bus back to the port in Cologne, I think is what it was. And actually we double docked. So have you
Oh,
guys
yeah.
ever talked about that on the show
Yeah.
before?
We
So we had to
Rafting.
did.
It's
cross
called
through an
Yeah.
Avalon ship to get onto our own.
Yeah, rafting. They call it rafting because you walk
Okay.
through the ships. They can
Or
stack 2, 3, 4 at a time if they need to, and then you just
yeah,
walk
depending
through.
on the river.
Yeah.
And what
Yep.
that means is one ship is parked at the dock, right, is in the berth, and then another ship is right next to it, and you essentially they're connected so that you walk through the lobby. So if you're on the second ship in, you're walking through first ship's lobby before you're walking onto the ground, basically. And so it's
Yeah.
very different than large ship cruising in the sense of like people aren't like checking your IDs. They do scan your card when you walk in, but you kind of have to like go to them to have them scan it. It's not like the security level is not like on cruise ships, ocean cruise ships, because you're not dealing with like, well, especially in Europe, you're not dealing with customs or anything as you travel from country to country because it's all part of the EU. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, interesting. All right, well, let's talk about your final stop, right?
Yep. So the last stop was Amsterdam.
Awesome.
While we
Right.
were there, we hopped on a river. Um,
Brian, you need to
is it
advance.
working?
Oh, sorry.
So we hopped on the
I'm
river
listening to
cruise. I
CT.
thought
I'm
we
not paying
lost him
attention to
again.
you, Sam. That's not the way to have a happy marriage. CT,
So,
Sam's just listening.
so we did another river cruise because of all the canals in the Netherlands. Then we hit the Rijksmuseum. Um, then we went out that afternoon and went to Von Sean's Hans. I'm terrible. I'm terrible. It's it was quaint. It's got these four old windmills, and they're kind of telling the story of the history of those windmills, what their contribution was to the agricultural community or land reclamation. And you can make cheese. You can paint your own clogs. You can it really was a cute little spot to celebrate some of the history of Holland and share it with visitors. So fantastic spot, great food. We had Dutch apple pie there, which is much different than the way Perkins or Baker Square or whatever your favorite diner makes it. It was really cool. um I also have on there, we went out and did this the next morning after we got off the ship, but we went and tracked down Stupelstones or Stumble Stones for Anne Frank and her family.
Mm,
So
yeah.
we went to the Anne Frank house and wanted to track down. If you're not familiar with these stones, I was actually texting Sam from Germany about them as we ran across them. But there's like 120,000 brass stones scattered across Europe that are kind of this living museum that started in 1993 by a German, where once someone can prove or show where someone last lived freely all the way to the end of their story, they will then track down that location of their last free point and place one of these stones in their honor. I think it's a beautiful reminder, an homage to the sacrifice of those families, and probably something we should pay attention more to today because I don't know, it was really important to Kelsey and I to see the Anne Frank house. It was really important for us once we had heard about these stones in Heidelberg, actually from Margie. And we kind of were on a quest after that to track them down in Cologne and the other places we went. But tracking down, we saw several of them throughout Amsterdam and then even the next day in Belgium. But yeah, it was it was it was it was good for us to track them down and to
Yeah.
see that and have that be a part of our travels.
Yeah, and you can find them, like, all throughout Europe, but, of course, especially in this part of Europe, because there were
Yep,
a ton of victims of the Nazi regime throughout
yep,
the Netherlands, France, Belgium,
Yep.
Germany, Switzerland, all of these places. We do have plans to go to the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam before our sailing as well, because it's not offered as part of our, because we board in
Yep.
Amsterdam and actually disembark in Amsterdam. So
Do you
it's
have tickets?
we do. We already have tickets. So
Perfect.
yeah, for those who don't know, you book tickets for the Anne Frank house on the Tuesday 6 weeks
6 weeks
before.
out. Yep.
And it's at Central European time. It's like, so it's in the middle of the
2 or
night.
3 a.m. Central Time was when I had to
Yeah.
get up to book ours.
Yeah, it was gonna
Yep.
be, I think it was gonna be, I think it's 3 AM for you Central Time, because I think it
Yep.
was 4 AM, Eastern, and I'm gonna give a shout out to Michael. I know he's watching, because Michael was the one who got up at 4 AM Eastern, so we didn't have to get up at 1 AM Pacific, to get
Beautiful.
those tickets for us, for the Anne Frank house. Well, let's talk about, I know, let's go to the next slide, Brian. I want to talk more generally about some of the here's after your adventure. Let's talk this, and then I want to talk more generally. I know you have some slides about things like food and things like the ship and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So let's do that.
So after adventure, we stayed in Amsterdam as kind of a bouncing point, and we stayed in, did the Anne Frank, did a private tour around the palace and some of the old city. Great tour guide told us all about that. Booked through Viator, and then the next day we went to Gouda, which is how we would say it is Gouda.
Mhm.
And that's where Gouda cheese is. It's actually less about that's where the cheese is from, but that used to be the center of the cheese market at large for that part of Europe. Uh, Charming little European village, also home to the stroopwafel, although you can get some great ones in Amsterdam. But if you are in Amsterdam for any amount of time, I would tell you take the 1 hour train ride out to Hato. It's fantastic. Great food, great people, great vibe in the small town there. Um, After that was Brussels the next day, where there was another instrument museum, collection of thousands of different instruments that they had there that Kelsey was able to see. Some that you wouldn't imagine, like a violin and an accordion together. And it's behind a glass case, but somebody has played it at some point because you have a tablet and you punch in the number next to the instrument, and you can hear a piece that's played on it. And Kelsey would have spent weeks there if I hadn't pulled her out after an hour. But we loved it and saw the rest of Brussels. Saw is it New House, which is the chocolate house that designed the praline as we know it today. So it was a pharmacist who was coding like vitamins and supplements with chocolate to get people to want to take them. But then people were eating them one after the other. So then he went to like peanuts and raisins. Well, there is a chocolate shop in that pharmacy today that is the chocolate company he later became there in Belgium. So part of
That's
that
funny.
chocolate tour of Europe.
That's funny. Everyone's running around
The
over medicating because it's covered in chocolate. I love
yeah.
it.
So uh the last day was a day in Amsterdam. We went out to This is Holland and the Amsterdam Lookout. This is Holland is like soaring over Holland or flyover if you've ever done that in
Yeah.
Canada
Oh,
or the
cool.
Mall of
In
America
Canada.
or
Yeah.
Iceland.
Yeah, they have wings
But it's
over
super
Washington here.
educational. There are like 3 different shows you sit through, 2 of them before the final one that's the ride that is soaring, that actually tell you the history of windmills and land reclamation for Holland. That actually makes it super educational. We again another sleeper thing that I just booked to fill time on a day to give us a late morning, and she absolutely loved it. And then we had afternoon tea where my wife um she's an anarchist, clotted cream before lemon curd and then jam before clotted cream. I don't know what I'm gonna do with her. I
I tell
stay
what
married
if
for an 18th year.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, CT, I do clotted cream only.
It's just wrong,
Am I
right?
am I
There's
just
a
like kicked out of the show?
Sam, there's a natural order to things in the world, and that is scone, clotted cream, and then curd or jam. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. And the
It's just
fact
the way.
that Kelsey won't even pick the wrong way, I guess everyone's got to have a fault. That's
I
hers.
love it.
The
I
way
love
she
it.
eats scones in Europe.
Well, where did you have tea, and do you recommend it? I mean, we're going to be in
Yeah,
Amsterdam in
it
like a
was
week.
great. It was a little Asian influenced for the sandwiches beforehand.
Oh,
But it was
nice.
Cafe Kaprinsky at the Antara right there on the main
Mm,
plaza in front of the Royal Palace in Amsterdam. It was really good. I can send you a link to it, Sam. Wasn't hard to
awesome.
get a reservation.
Nice.
Awesome. Okay, now we do have a couple of slides about the ship and food, right?
Yep. Yep.
All right,
That's what's
let's get
next.
there. I love it.
Lots of food. Okay, first one up front. Most important. Alma Waterwise can't make scrambled eggs either. You gotta order an omelet from the chef. It's just as
Okay.
Disney, whatever Disney's done with scrambled eggs has been carried over by the adventure guides the to the
To the
river
ship.
cruises. Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know. Other great food, obviously Mickey shaped things are on the screen there. Fantastic desserts. I would say, and we've talked about this a lot. The food on the ship is a step below Palo, but a very slight step. Fantastic food. They're cooking for a lot less people, so it's better than your rotational dining on DCL, but not quite where Paulo is. Here's what I will say is the drawback is there's less options. So there's
Right.
usually one or two options in each category for your appetizer, one or two for your soup, and then one or two for your main dish, maybe a third, and then the kids have a menu. So, and you can always order like an Alma burger or a cheeseburger, and they'll give that to you. But that's kind of the food's great. To be honest, there were times where we were ordering and less than enthused, and then ended up loving it. So
Yep.
just go in, know that they're designing the menu so it matches uh the cuisine for the kind of the location or region you're in that day, and
Mhm.
just embrace it. How are the choices for picky eaters? Don't be a picky eater, just embrace the menu. That
Yeah.
would be my tip. It's
I
the
mean,
time not to be a picky eater and just
yeah.
embrace it. If you've got an allergy, you've got an allergy, and they did a great job of asking about that, making sure that was taken care of, just like Disney. I imagine that's an expectation from them.
Yeah.
Sorry,
They
sorry, Tracy. I
So,
mean, Tracy's
they
saying
they
rude in the
will
chat, but yeah,
they will let you order off the kids menu, Tracy.
yeah.
That's probably your
yes.
best option if you really can't find something on the main menu that sounds good. And as CT mentioned, you can always order a burger. That is something they will always
Well, and
pretty much always make for you.
Alma
I
has
remember the
won.
mac and cheese being particularly good, but I think it was only served at lunchtime from my memory.
Yeah.
Alma has
Yeah.
has won awards for food, so like
Yeah.
it is like everything that we ate on board was delicious. I'm curious more specifically, CT, about your experience with the chef's table and whether you thought
So
that
the
that was
chef's table's
fun.
fantastic. But know that that menu is designed by the chef for that cruise, and it's the same every night. So if you really like it, you might be able to pick up another night later in the cruise if you do it early enough. I wanted to line it up with that first full day on the ship because that's when Kelsey's birthday was. It felt like
Mhm.
the natural way to go to the chef's table, celebrate her birthday, and you know, they, there was no clapping and whatever, but we celebrated her birthday back at the chef's table. It was fantastic. And I would say the chef's table was then a step above what Paulo does because
Yeah,
it
it's
really
it's
was a great
it's
experience.
it's probably
But
not it's a
but
step below Remy or Enchanté, but it would be like a step above Paulo. It's not quite the
yeah,
multi-courses of a full chef tasting menu. It's kind of I would call it a chef's tasting menu, but it's an abbreviated chef's tasting menu. That's kind of the difference. And,
but now
not
what I
quite. Sorry, go
what I
ahead.
will say is wine is included with all of the meals. it's one that they pick. So I mean, if you're not a picky eater, you're probably not a picky wine drinker. So, um, it's funny as I stare at Tracy in the chat. You're, but the wine was fun. Like it was from, it kind of rotated again with the regions we were passing through. It was something the ship
Mhm.
had picked up from one of those regions. So, who was it? Nelly was our like our sommelier that took care of us throughout the cruise. And was stopping by our table to Kelsey doesn't drink at all, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna drink wine on this trip." So she was constantly pushing her to at least try new things, which I thought was great. I thought it was good. But the food's
Yeah, and
great. I really liked
usually
it.
they give you a choice of a red or a white pretty much every night from my memory. They
Yeah.
give you yeah, love it. All right,
Yeah.
tips.
Okay, so a couple of tips I want to give. The first one is dress code for churches. So you got to cover your shoulders. So if you can see Kelsey even in that top picture is wearing like a blouse that doesn't cover her shoulders. The quick tip I will give you for that is if you're not wearing too short of shorts or too short a skirt to go in, but you are wearing the tank top, hop out to the shops real quick and just buy a scarf,
Mhm.
right? Buy a scarf that will cover your shoulders and then you can hop in. So dress code for churches, that was one that our adventure guides kind of missed with us. That I'd wish they'd hit, but we'd mentioned it to them and then they were taking care of it pretty well after that. Know your Translate app, whether you're Apple or Google Translate, whatever, but those worked fantastic. I used the new earbuds on this trip, yeah, with the translate real time. It worked great. Um, and then no conversions in your app, whether it's converting money or converting, you don't understand milliliters to a cup or whatever, but usually in the calculator app, there's a convert. Pack layers, like don't dress too heavy, be able to shred a layer or two to be comfortable, especially in Europe, as it sometimes can be 90 degrees or be 60 degrees. It just depends. And then, Tracy, be adventurous, try new foods, see something you wouldn't normally be interested in. And then I would say this is a experience that's distinctively Disney, but distinctively different. And I think you
Yeah.
guys will agree with that. You feel that Disney quality of customer service, where they're really trying to cater to you and make you feel a part of a story in your life. But it is different than the cruise line is. So there is a night of trivia, there is a night of karaoke, at least on ours, and I've heard from yours. And some of the other places I've looked. So you do get some of those notes, but it is, there's not I guess I'm probably digging into the next slide, but there's not a daily EWA or a daily navigator. They do have a schedule of events for that day, but it's different. No days at sea, but you're on ABD, so C's the day. Flexibility in dining and seating, I really preferred. Um, Cruise dress is different on a river cruise. Like there were people that were wearing like khaki shorts and a shirt at dinner. They don't come as you are. There are long days at port, and I didn't really
Th-
see, like I pack a tux for a Disney cruise that's 8 nights or longer. You don't pack a tux for this kind of. At least we didn't. So
I will say one thing on the dress code that applies to Adventures by Disney. They do relax the dress code on AMA a bit, but I have seen AMA and some of the other cruise lines like do have like a standard of dress
yep.
for main dining, and so know if you're going on ABD, you get some
You
relaxation
can
of that
wear a t-shirt.
policy. Yeah,
Let's put it that way.
you get relaxation of that policy, and you get third person in some of the staterooms if you're traveling. Like for us, having being able to put Nathan in the same stateroom is key for us when we travel. So that's a little bit different as well. But yeah, CT, I want to ask. We are way over our allotted
Uh,
time. No. I just wanted to ask sort of the ultimate question, which is Would you do this again? Would you do another Adventures by Disney? When do you think it makes sense to do that? And when might you say, I don't need this, or maybe I'll go do a river cruise without it being an ABD? Like, what's the equation here
Um,
that makes this like a good, makes this the right thing for some people? Yeah.
I think it's just about where you are in your travel and what you want, right? Some people are perfectly content traveling in the US, and I would tell you that if you are looking for like a break on a trip where you don't have to plan everything and you trust that Disney's gonna do things and just take care of all the steps along the way. Like you don't even have to go to Europe. You can do a land tour here in the US. They have, some Southern California things for like super fans. One I'm gonna be looking into is one of the folks we were on the river cruise with did like Maine and Arcadia National Park with Adventures by Disney, and that sounds very interesting to Kelsey and I. So I I think the right time to try it is when you can, because there is a price that comes with this that's different from the cruise line, I think. I don't know what that third person cost or, I know what the two looks like. I don't know if the third person's the same cost as the first two, or
It's
is
the
it
same
like
cost.
Disney Cruise Line
No,
where it
no,
diminishes a little, so
it's the same cost for the third person. The difference is we don't have to pay a double occupancy and pay for a second room. That's the difference, right? Because there's
yeah,
3 of us, and so if we needed to get a second room, we would be paying essentially for 4 people, even though there's only 3 of us, right? So
yeah,
that's really the issue. So he is full price because he's over a certain age. I can't remember if it's 11 or 10. Or I can't remember what the age limit is.
yeah,
There is a lower cost for younger kids, but for a kid of Nathan's age, it's a full price adult price essentially. Um, One thing I will completely agree with you, CT, is the idea of if you want a vacation where you just book the flight and they take care of everything else, that's an Adventures by Disney experience. I mean, if you want to plan something on the front end or the back end, absolutely you can, but it's soup to nuts. They take care of everything for you, and they are your guides throughout the entire experience. And of course, as you mentioned, you've got local tour guides as well as your adventure guides throughout the experience. It's a very white glove level of service in that sense, even though it's a come as you are casual dress kind of a experience as
yeah.
well.
And real quick on the river cruises, because I know land's different, but on the river cruises, all the gratuities are covered as part. There's the last bullet there's less of an upsell culture. I think the only things we spent on were a few glasses of scotch I had, and doing laundry the day we got on because we were in Switzerland, and laundry the last day we could while we were on the and it was pretty fairly priced. I mean, 6 days of laundry for both of us was $60. um uh,
That's great.
Cleaning on a ship, which was a lot cheaper than what the hotels were in Switzerland or Amsterdam. So
Yeah, and
Nice.
you're sending out your laundry. There's no self-service laundry. Karen
yeah,
did jump in the chat. Thank you, Karen, our show sponsor for My Path Unwinding Travel. Karen jumped in the chat and said, adult pricing starts at age 12. That's why I didn't know. I knew that Nathan was adult price, and he is in fact 12. So that makes sense. So yeah, so younger kids are a lower price. Now it's not like half price or something like that, though, but it is a discounted price for under 12. All right,
yeah.
Brian.
Yes. Are
All
are
right.
we are we through all the slides?
I think we got one left, Brian.
Ah,
Yes,
Okay,
one
so
more.
some
One
the
more.
things I
gear.
had that
I love
were
this. I love the gear.
fantastic on this. The first one's the Muddy 7 from GLI Net. Worked fantastic. I loaded an eSIM from Holofly. This was only the second time I had used it because I'd done a test run when I was out in Lompoc, California, just a couple of weeks before. And for 20 days, it took care of us in Europe, hopping across multiple countries. Worked fantastic. The next one is Flexpedition pants from Duluth Trading Company. I was looking for something that looked like a khaki, but was durable for all the adventuring. I spilt red wine on those colored pants, and it was gone in 20 minutes. So those were fantastic. I have the
Amazing.
new 2-in-1 bag from Peak Design. There's an outer backpack that unzips off a larger, like 35-liter backpack. So I had a day pack along with my larger bag for when we were traveling over to Europe. That worked fantastic, and was super flexible for the day to day. I used an X5. A lot of the pictures you saw there, I just grab the X5, take the picture, let it take the 360 degree, and then I pick the picture post production, especially for the big
Awesome.
landscape views, because you could never get the right one. You feel like you missed something. You can always go back and pull a flat picture from that 360-degree view. And I haven't posted all the footage yet. I'll be over the next like 2 weeks, but I wrapped it onto the bar for the balcony and caught us going through a lock one evening with it and actually lowering the boat in the lock, which was fantastic footage and some great footage walking through castles and stuff like that.
So let me.
And then,
Oh, I was just going to jump in, CT, to decipher some of this for folks listening afterwards, some of these things. So the X5 is an Insta360 360-degree camera. We have one ourselves. It's great for static video time lapses. Like, you can basically, you download it onto your phone or your computer and use their app to edit the 360-degree video. And it's great because you can kind of forget you can look at things and know that you're capturing everything.
yeah,
The first thing that CT mentioned too is it's called the Moody 7, MUDI. It is from a company called GLI Net, and what it is a mobile travel router. It's great for two purposes. CT already highlighted one. Holofly is an eSIM provider in Europe. And so you can buy cards to roam through Europe and get kind of, I'm going to put unlimited data in air quotes. They do start to throttle you at some point down to lower speeds. But you can just you can carry that around and attach your phones to it and get reliable internet. The other thing it does is it's actually a Wi-Fi router. And so what I like to do with it is you can program it to basically mirror your home Wi-Fi network. And when you get to the hotel, you log in once and all the devices from your family that normally connect to your home network suddenly start connecting, and you don't have to go through all the CAPTCHA portals and all of that sort of stuff. Everyone's just working off of one Wi-Fi router. So it's a great little handy tool to have. Yeah.
I also loaded our NordVPN to it to give us an extra layer of protection and have the router tell the cell network that we were actually in Denver, Colorado. So if we were checking on something for like a bank or something like that, it wasn't flagging the bank with a weird error because someone was logging into our account from Germany.
Yeah.
The last two on there, City Mapper is an excellent map if you're using public transit and trying to walk to different spots in Europe. If you haven't used that app before, it works great. It'll give you what it is to walk. Here's a couple of different like bus, tram, subway options, and then it'll give you the cost of a taxi and an Uber all at once for you to pick what option to get to where you want to go. And it's linked with public transit to tell you the next times that maybe that tram's supposed to come past, so you have an expected time of arrival for where you're
Oh,
going. And the
cool.
last one's called Globe Tips. And Globe Tips I heard about from another YouTube channel, and it you hop in there, you pick what country, and it tells you what's the expected tip for where you are, for a waiter or for a tour guide, porter that's handling your bags. Sometimes I blow that off. I think if you touch my bags, I should be taking care of you. But sometimes in like Switzerland, it's just round up to the next dollar because there's already a service charge, and they see that small little couple of, that less than a Swiss franc is good. So those are some great gears and apps. I haven't done that before when I've been on your shows, but this was a long trip, and all these things were super vital. Kelsey made me put the pants on there. All right.
I love it. Good
Nice.
job,
And then
Kelsey.
the last slide. Couldn't have done this without you or Wes. Wes as you guys know, is my travel guide. He's the other half of, or the another part in the greater DCL Duo multiverse. He's the Guardians of the Galaxy to your guys' Avengers, right?
I
And
love
he
that.
did such a great job taking care of us, making sure everything was booked, and then taking care of those excursion choices for us during our booking window for them. So took care of everything. We had a great trip, and he is a big part of that. So we appreciate both him and you guys, because I think I went back and watched the episode of your guys' trip, and with Rebecca and some of the adventure guides you guys have had over the years, a couple of times leading up to this trip. So thank you guys.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're so welcome. We absolutely love talking Adventures by Disney. We love letting our listeners know about this product as well. It is obviously I say that Disney Cruise Line is the gateway drug to Adventures by Disney. It is a more expensive product, but if you're interested in doing something different than a large ocean liner cruise, I do think Adventures by Disney's got a lot of great options, be them river cruises or land based, and we'll continue to cover them. We actually do have a couple more Adventures by Disney episodes coming up this summer. Of course, we'll be talking about our river cruise in just a couple of weeks when we'll be back, because we'll be on a brief hiatus because we'll be traveling. Of course, we'll have plenty of recorded episodes for you all while we're gone. So fear not, you will have plenty of DCL Duo to listen to. But we will be back next Monday for one more episode before we leave on our ABD. We'll be talking with Kelly about her Alaska cruise on the Disney Wonder. So, of course, I mentioned we'll have lots of Alaska content, lots of Adventures by Disney content coming. So we will see you all next Monday, our normal time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And then after next Monday, we will be on a brief hiatus while we're traveling. And then we'll be back with you to talk about our Adventures by Disney, our podcast cruise. So we'll have traveled with a number of listeners in Holland and Belgium. So super excited about that. We'll say thank you so much to CT for coming on the show. Boots to Beaches, if you are interested in donating to the charity, especially in honor of our nation's 250th anniversary, make sure you send your money to some veterans who could use a way of reconnecting with their families. So thanks to CT for introducing us to that charity. And with that, we'll say good night, everyone. We'll see you next Monday for our regularly scheduled live show.
See ya.